Welcome to Artful Photoshop. This video is called Lotus Blossom. You'll see the image at the beginning of the tutorial so that you'll know kind of what you're working on. And I think you're going to like it. It's not a lot of images, but with a couple of blending modes and some cutting out of little images within the image, I think you're going to find that it really comes out pretty nifty, and I think you'll like some of the things you'll learn by doing it. So let's go to File and Open. And we need to find our Artful Photoshop file, and we're going to look for Lotus Blossom in there. And the first image we want to open is the the background texture. So let's open that. Let's drag it more to the middle. Now I'm going to duplicate it because I always like to duplicate any of the collage backgrounds because I might want to use this another time, and I try not to destroy them when I'm working on my collage, but sometimes it's unavoidable, so I just duplicate it. So we'll go to Image Duplicate, or in Elements it's File Duplicate. I'm going to rename it Lotus Blossom and click OK. So here's my new image. I'm going to close the original one to save it, and I'm going to pull it more to the middle so you can see it. We actually will name it over here Background. And see where we have this extra layer? Well, we don't really need that, and it kind of gets in the way. So let's just drag it down and put it in the trash can. Okay, so now we have our first layer. Let's go to File and Open. And let's pick the lotus itself. So now we have the Lotus Blossom open. We can see over here there's a white background. We can click the eyeball next to that. Now it's on a transparent background, which means we can either drag and drop, or we can go to Select All, Edit, Copy, move over to your collage image and go to Edit and Paste. Okay, now we're close that one. We don't need it, and it will save it. Whenever you move something like that in Photoshop, it actually does duplicate it, and it saves that original one. It's only on the original background that you have to duplicate it yourself. Okay, now I want to cut a piece of this flower out. It's almost like cutting and pasting. It's almost like using scissors, but with your computer, because I'm going to want to slip a little doll head in there later, and so in order to do that, I've got to cut part of this out so that it will look like she's in there. So select your Lotus image. We forgot to name it. Name it Lotus. Okay, so make sure that you have your Lotus image selected in your Layers panel, and come over to your Tools and pick your Lasso tool grouping. We're going to pick the Magnetic Lasso tool. I'm going to start right about here, and I'm going to drag around these front petals. I want to get all the yellow in there, maybe a little pink here. Now remember, this is kind of a surreal image, sort of ethereal, so you don't have to be really, really perfect. If you were going to be doing a really photographic image, you would use the same technique, but you would obviously have to be very careful that you got everything just perfect. But we don't need to do that this time, although the Lasso tool does a pretty good job, so we have a pretty nice image selected there. Okay, so when you come to the end and you've matched up with where you started, then you want to hit your Return or Enter key, and you'll see the selection appear. Let's go back to the Move tool so we don't start selecting other parts of our collage. So you'll see that you have the move, or the marching ants around it, so you see that you've selected this beginning portion. So make sure you're still on your Lotus in the Layers panel. Go to the Command on a Mac or Control on a PC, that key, and the letter J. This is a key command. So Command or Control and the letter J. Okay, so see how we popped up with a whole new layer there? Now this is going to be our Lotus petals. So what you have is, if you close, you'll see what you have if you close the eyeball here. See, you have just selected those petals. Pretty cool, huh? So let's go back up to our file and open. And this time we're going to open the image of the doll head. So let's bring her out. We can close that, and again we can drag and drop her right onto the lotus. Now I do like this, but I'm going to name her Doll. I do like it, but I'm thinking I might have wanted that lotus to be a tad bigger. So I'm going to close the eyeball to hide her for a minute. Now, if I want to transform, close that too. If I want to transform this, I want to transform both layers at once. I don't want to have to be trying to figure out how to make the petals as big as the whole flower and etc. So what you can do is you can select this one, hold down your Command or Control key and select the other part of your lotus, and then they can both be maneuvered at the same time. So see, number one, we can move them at the same time, and number two, we can transform them. So let's go to Edit and Free Transform. Or if you're in Elements, it's under Image Transform. And now we can, by just moving these corners, and hold your Shift key down so that it stays in the same proportion, we can just, I'm not going to make it too much bigger, just a tad bigger. Maybe down a little bit this way as well. Okay. Then when you like what you have, you can click this little check up here, or you can merely hit the Return key. And there you go. Now this will move together until you choose another layer here and separate them so that you're not moving them all the time at the same time. So now let's open the doll again. There she is. We've named her doll. Now I want her to be in there, so we take these lotus petals that we so carefully cut out and we drag them to above the doll layer, and there you go. Looks like she's right in there. Pretty amazing, huh? Okay, let's go up to File and Open. And we're going to take this silverware. Let's open the silverware. And again, we'll just close the eyeball and we'll be able to drag it onto our collage. I'm just going to place it somewhere over here. If you don't like that, place it somewhere else. I'm going to close that. I'm not going to save that. And we're going to name it Silverware. Okay, so there you go. I think that looks pretty good. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to go to another file and open. And we're going to open this rust texture. So open your rust texture. I'm going to check the size on this because I like the way this looks, so I want it to fit the image pretty closely. So we'll go to Image and Image Size, or Image Resize in Elements, and it's 9 by 7. So that's good at 300 dpi, so we're good. Now I'm going to drag and drop it onto the collage. Now because we're dragging and dropping, it will come out on top. If you're doing the select all, edit and paste, it may not, which means you would have to adjust it here in your layers panel. But let's go over here and name it Rust. Okay, now we need to change the blend mode so that you'll be able to see all the different things that are underneath it. So we're going to go to Normal, and here we're going to change this to Multiply. And there comes up everything that you had placed underneath that layer of rust. And I do like it very much. However, I can tell just by looking at it that if I went to print it, or even maybe on some on my blog, it might appear a tad dark. So with that rust layer selected, I'm going to just tiny bit here lighten it up so that I still have all the interest of the rust, but it's just a little tiny bit lighter. Now you'll definitely want to save it, so you're going to go to File and Save As. Now it's going to have the name that we gave it when we named the duplicate of Lotus Blossom. I'm going to save mine on my desktop, but you can certainly save it wherever you want. It usually gives you a whole bunch of options. We want it as a Photoshop file with the layers selected, so that when you go back and you want to move the silverware, or you want to turn her head upside down, or whatever you want to do, all these layers will be available for you to do that. So click Save, and maximize compatibility is always a good idea. And there you go. You're ready to go. And be sure to take these images and some of the other images in the other files and mix them up and play with them and have a lot of fun. So practice up, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.